If you've ever purchased a laptop, you've probably come across companies like Asus, Dell, Acer, HP, Lenovo, Samsung, and many others. Why is it then that you have to select between Intel and AMD when it comes to CPUs? Why isn't there a wider range of alternatives available? The existing processor duopoly compels us to choose between Team Blue, Intel, and Team Red, AMD. These are the two CPU market giants, and each system relies on one of these CPU cores. With each successive year, both of these enterprises strive to surpass each other and cut into each other's market share. Yet at the end of every financial year, nothing appears to have changed, as they both stick to their weapons. So in this video, let's take a look at the historical background of both duopolies to see how we came to the situation where Intel versus AMD is the only alternative. Welcome to Wealthy Mindset, where we explore unique and breathtaking angles from the world of money, economics, personal finance, and investing. But before we dive into it, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, click on the bell icon right there so you never miss any of our subsequent videos. It's fascinating to see that both enterprises were formed in what is now known as Silicon Valley, California, nearly 50 years ago. Despite this, no other prominent company has managed to monopolize the semiconductor marketplace as effectively as these two enterprises have in the last half-century. Gordon Moore, the man behind Moore's Law, and Robert Noyce, the man behind the Silicon Integrated Circuit, co-founded Intel in mid-1968. Fairchild Semiconductor, an important and prominent forerunner in integrated circuit technology, employed both men at the time. A few months later, in 1969, AMD was established by former Fairchild Semiconductor employees. As a result, the two firms share a common origin and have comparable roots. Soon after introducing the x86 chipset and launching its initial public offering, IPO, in 1971, Intel became the dominating player in the microprocessor market. In the semiconductor industry, AMD has always been the perennial challenger to Intel for much of its existence. Since then, Intel has dominated the CPU industry in all segments, including high-end performance CPUs. AMD concentrated on chipsets in the mid and low range that were less expensive and more budget-friendly. For many years, Intel CPUs have had a reputation for being more reliable and easier to work with for the typical computer user. However, experienced users who know their way around a circuit board were able to experiment with AMD's overclocked CPUs, which makes the system a little faster than usual. AMD launched their very popular Ryzen microprocessor in March 2017, touting it as a much more affordable substitute to expensive CPUs, as well as a technology capable of competing with Intel's finest processors. The Ryzen microprocessor was an entirely new concept that could smash spiking milestones while remaining inexpensive for the average customer. AMD's revenues were bolstered by the fast, high-performing Ryzen processors. In 2019, AMD had a 23% processor market share, but by Q3 2021, it had approximately 40% of the overall CPU market share. AMD controlled 32% of the desktop computer market in 2019, and by 2021, Intel and AMD had a 50-50 market share. Even though AMD currently trails Intel in terms of market share, the firm's products have made good headway. It may appear that Intel and AMD are the only processor manufacturers worth mentioning. This is truly the case for Windows-based PCs, but not for all automated systems. Central processors are also made by Texas Instruments Inc., TXN, Broadcom Inc., AVGO, and Qualcomm Inc., QCOM. These businesses, however, have concentrated in other parts of the electronic industry and have avoided PCs. These companies, for example, provide the processors for most of the world's largest tablets and smartphones. Samsung and Taiwan Semiconductor, TSM, developed CPUs for Apple Inc.'s AAPL iPhone. In the meantime, Intel and AMD have concentrated their efforts on the PC and PC gaming industries, including GPUs. Historically, there was fierce rivalry in the PC processor market, with companies directly competing against Intel's x86 architecture. Among the companies that first offered co-processors combined with Intel 286 and 386 CPUs was Cyrix. All of these manufacturers have subsequently fallen by the wayside or were driven out of the processor industry. Unfortunately, Cyrix has always been late to the market, lagging behind Intel and AMD's enhancements and unable to match them on performance. In all likelihood, the two firms will continue to strive in the future, trading spots on the leaderboard as each breaks the mold of creativity. If the last 50 years are any hint, Intel and AMD will continue to work tirelessly to improve CPU performance, much to the pleasure of gamers and users throughout the world. However, we may have additional alternatives in the future. Apple's release of the ARM-based M1 central processing unit demonstrated that a full-fledged computer may operate without an x86 processor. There is a glimmer of excitement that businesses will soon begin to release processors for different types of computers. All we have to do now is wait and watch if it will shatter the AMD-Intel duopoly, bringing us additional choices or not. If you enjoyed this video, slap a like on it and subscribe to the channel to stay updated with the latest business trends and interesting facts. You can also turn on the bell notifications so you don't miss any of our mind-blowing videos. We'll catch you in the next one. Until then, bye!